Shaitan ar-Rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadin abduhu wa rasuluh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers, welcome back to our halakat, and we're going to continue to study the explanation of the creed. But we want to change the title slightly now because terms have lost their meaning. So we can call this maybe the tree of Tawheed, of what we're going to be studying over the next few weeks. Or you can say the matters in relation to the iman in Allah Azza wa Jal, the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. Because the word Aqidah, as we previously mentioned, has not been mentioned within the Quran. Neither has the word At-Tawheed been mentioned within the Quran. And certain terms have lost their meaning. And this is what I'm going to speak about for a little while, just as part of the introduction to the topic, Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah today. First of all, we need to understand what is the purpose of our halaqah. The purpose of our halaqah is to challenge our very own knowledge that we have, to see how much we know and how much we don't know. And as Ali bin Abu Talib, he said, every time I learn something, I discover how jahil I am. So in relation to us knowing Allah is very important. Then after we know that, we're going to propagate that correct knowledge. So it's essential for that correct belief to be propagated, because people have got very spurious ideas. People have got very mixed up understandings of what is the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. So let's understand from the beginning of in relation to defining what is a term and the meaning of a term. Because I don't want to lay down the classifications of Tawheed, which we're going to study today, and the divisions of a Tawheed, without to understand the meaning of terms. First of all, we need to understand Allah Azza wa Jal, He decided to make a Khalifa upon the earth. And Khalifa, we don't say is the Khalif, as in the one who's ruling by the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. The Khalifa was who? Adam alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam. After Allah Azza wa Jal, He had put the jinn on the earth. So Adam alayhi salam, he was a Khalif or Khalifa after the jinn in the succession of controlling the earth, but not being necessarily the Khalif as in Khalif or the Khilafah, if we understand that. Before Allah Azza wa Jal, He gave Adam alayhi salam this authority, He taught him names of everything, or those names which he needed to know about. And He also told the Malaika the names of things. However, the difference between Allah Azza wa Jal telling Adam alayhi salam the names of things and the Malaika is Allah Azza wa Jal, He taught Adam alayhi salam the meanings and the feelings in relation to those names. So we need to know those particular terms, because if we don't know the meanings of a term, then we're going to call it something else. It's going to be known as something else. And if we study about Adam alayhi salam just a little bit as to how he understood terms and how he was deceived, in fact, by the shaitan, we'll begin to understand how we are going to put things into context and how do we understand particular terms. So when Allah, when He taught Adam alayhi salam terms, it was in relation to feelings which Allah taught Adam alayhi salam about, in relation to that thing, which are linked to the meanings. So any feeling, and this is maybe, it might seem like it's very difficult to follow, but have sabr and just pay a lot of attention, and you'll be able to understand the whole of the topic of Tawheed Ruboobiyah. The feeling is in relation to the name, which must exist in relation to the reality of the matter. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Okay, let me put it to you like this. It's a mobile phone. This is a name. We've been taught about it, right? Then what is our feeling towards that? Our feeling towards that will be in relation to the function in regards to the reality of what we've been informed about that. If I say to you, this is a phone, and you say to me, can it make a breakfast for me? You know it can't, because the feeling in relation to that name is not accurate for that particular term, right? So we need to understand that. Allah Azza wa Jal, He then challenged the Malaika, tell me about those names which I've taught Adam alayhi salam about, and the Malaika, they couldn't answer. Why? Because the Malaika, they don't know the feelings in regards to those names. But Allah Azza wa Jal, He's the one who didn't create that within them. So Shaitan, what did he do? Shaitan, in his relationship with Adam alayhi salam, he had to play around with the terms. And he found it very difficult to break the term, the meaning of a particular term. He wanted him to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So he had to change the name of something, or not the name, the feeling in relation to the name. So why was it difficult for Shaitan to play with Adam alayhi salam? First of all, we understand, is because Allah Azza wa Jal, He taught the name of things to Adam alayhi salam. So if there is a matter which Allah Azza wa Jal told Adam alayhi salam, don't do this, Shaitan can't have any authority or power over Adam alayhi salam. Why? Because Adam alayhi salam, he already has previous information which Allah Azza wa Jal has told him about. Okay? So more than that, he's a prophet of Allah, so he's been given this information. So for Shaitan to break the meaning of the reality of the term, he had to show him a new term with a new meaning. Right? A new term with a new meaning to deceive Adam alayhi salam from the right path. Here we say there are three components linked together for any term or any meaning of a term, and you need to know this. First of all is the real existence of a thing. So I say this is a chair, or that's a cushion, or that's a light, or that's a hat, or that's a pen. Okay? The real existence of it must exist. It must exist. Secondly is the announcement of that thing. So the announcement will come, for example, it has a particular name. Yeah? So something exists. It's an object, and then it has a particular name. Right? What's the name of that? Chair, table, so on and so forth. And then the feeling in relation to that thing. So I can say to you now, for example, if for example, if I say to you, chair, right? That's an existence of something, is an announcement there. Yahya, what is your feeling in regards to a chair? What do you think of when you think of chair? Sit on it. Sit on it, right. Luqman, when you think of, for example, a hat, does that exist? It's real. What comes to your mind when you think of a hat? It's something you wear. So the term has to have all three matters in relation to that. Anything we're talking about, it must exist, it must have a name, and it must have a feeling in relation to that in order for it to be compatible. Without any of these three, then nothing exists really. There's nothing really there. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He exists, He has an announcement of that of Himself, and then Allah Azza wa Jal has told us how we should feel towards Himself. Now, how did Shaitan then trick Adam alayhi salam? Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, this is the tree of sin. Don't eat from this tree or you'll be sinful. So he had a feeling of sin. The tree existed. The announcement came from Allah Azza wa Jal. Adam alayhi salam, he then had a feeling, I can't go near this. Shaitan, he couldn't tell him just eat from the tree. Because now he's already got previous information that I can't eat from the tree. Allah Azza wa Jal told me don't eat from that particular tree. So Shaitan, what did he have to do? He had to change what the name of the object. He had to give a new announcement and create a reality which is invalid and doesn't exist. So he offered him two. Shaitan, he said to Adam alayhi salam, he said, this is the tree of eternity. And secondly, anyone who eats from this tree, he will get a kingdom that never decays. And this is the trick of, until Yawmul Qiyamah, of Shaitan. That if you have this, you'll feel good about yourself. If you have this, then you'll have eternity. So he knows what Adam alayhi salam, he likes. Yeah, like all of us. We like food. We like extra food. We like extra homes. We like extra wealth. In order so that we can feel superior, in order so that we can have a longer life. That's why people go in the gym, for example, to work out. So nothing has changed. Shaitan, what did he do though? He changed the announcement. So the announcement, it didn't see a reality which Adam alayhi salam could think about, because it's something which didn't exist. So Shaitan said to Adam, look, eat from this tree and you'll have an eternal life. Adam alayhi salam, he's confused now. How can I have an eternal life? What is an eternal life? So he has to think about a new term, an announcement which has come, and he has to think about a new reality, which is falsehood anyway. Because there's nothing called eat from a tree and you're going to have a long life. Shaitan was lying, right? So he created a false feeling to go with that announcement. Adam alayhi salam, he ended up eating from the tree. So Shaitan, what we say is, he created a name. His mistake was a false feeling, and the reality, it was nothing. The reality, it was nothing. Shaitan, he created falsehood, but the reality, it is nothing. Adam alayhi salam, he acted upon this, hoping that the unknown result will happen. Adam alayhi salam, he had hope that if I eat this if I eat this apple, then I will get a reality of having eternal life, which obviously did not occur. So the first step that we need to understand is what the kuffar and the shaitan and the shayateen and the deviant people will do is they'll change the meaning of a term. And we can give maybe 3 examples of that. Jihad is terrorism. So people, they'll say jihad is terrorism. The name is right, al-jihad fi sabilillah. But the false feeling that comes with that is indiscriminate killing of women and children, which Islam, it prohibits. What does that do? It creates a false reality. So what do you have? You have the existence of something, which is fighting, the announcement of that thing, meaning the term in relation to that, jihad, but the feeling in relation to that. That's why all 3 need to be correct. A second example is that of zina. Zina is what? People say it's a relationship nowadays, but zina is fornication. Zina, people will give it a false name, saying it's a relationship, create a false feeling that he's just being friendly, and it leads to what? A corrupted reality. A corrupted reality. A third example, riba. Riba is what? Interest, or it's not even accurate to say is interest, but it's something Allah he hates. And it's like making war with Allah and His Messenger. But the announcement of the term has got explained by a different reality, or created a false reality that is just interest. So it creates a haram reality that, oh no, but I'm going to get something out of it. How can that be something wrong? How can you condemn riba? Surely we need it. So people, what they do is they will act upon something, hoping that it will give them what they want. And same thing in the Aqidah. If the Aqidah doesn't have the correct terms in relation to it, we'll have a false announcement and an incorrect reality, an incorrect worship, we end up dying kafir. So our Aqidah needs to be built on bricks and not based upon sand, which becomes, which sand is completely hollow. Like, for example, we were debating with one man yesterday, and he said, for example, I reject the hadith. I reject the hadith, yeah, and I only take the Quran. The brother, mashallah, he just gave him a couple of arguments, say, look, how do you know then how to pray? How do you know how to do this then? Then he goes, I'll take it back then. He shouldn't be out giving his false dawah anyway. He was Qadiani, Ahmadiyya, Kafir anyway, yeah? Because he took a term, changed the reality, changed the meaning, and he's calling towards complete batil. So the point of all of this was just to demonstrate that every term must have correct meaning and a reality which is true. Every term must have a correct meaning and a reality of that which is true. Otherwise, it's going to be completely at loss. If there's anything you want to ask in relation to that, feel free to ask, inshallah. If there's anything that you didn't get down, or if anything you want me to repeat. No? Huh? The last thing I said was, every term must have a correct meaning and a reality which is true. Okay. If we understand this then we can understand now what we're going to study is basically Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. And first of all, we need to understand the history of the classifications of At-Tawheed. Okay, we've already studied and understood what's a pillar of Tawheed. How many pillars are there of Tawheed? 2. Kufr bi-Taghut, Imanu billah. Now when we believe in Allah, there's something called a classification of how to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Classifying His Lordship, His worship, His names and His attributes, and His hukum, His legislation. We call this Tawheed Ruboobiyah, Tawheed Uluhiyah, Tawheed al-Asma Sifat, and Tawheed al-Hakamiyah. Now, the detailed matters in relation to Tawheed Ruboobiyah, for example, we're going to study what is Tawheed Ruboobiyah now, is going to be called a division. Alright? So, if I say Tawheed Uluhiyah, that's not a division, it's a classification. anything in relation to that, meaning categories of Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah, is known as a division of Tawheed. And I'll explain the 4 divisions which we're going to discuss of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. But first of all, let's go to the history of the classifications and what is Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. First thing you need to understand, what is Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah? Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, in a nutshell, is in relation of the function of your heart. The function of your heart. Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah is the function of your heart, meaning your relationship with Allah via your belief in Allah. Imanu billaah. Remember the hadith in Sahih Muslim of Jibreel alayhi salam, when Jibreel alayhi salam came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him, tell me what is Islam, tell me what is Iman, and he said, Al-Imanu Billah. The first thing that he said is to believe in Allah, believe in the messengers, believe in the Day of Judgment, believe in the Qadr, so on and so forth. He carried on. So Al-Imanu Billah, what do we say when we say Al-Imanu Billah? Meaning your belief, meaning the function of your heart in regards to your belief in Allah. We're not talking about your actions. That's a separate. Your actions are in relation to Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah. So the 2 major classifications are Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah, or some people say Tawheed Ar-Ubudiyyah, or Tawheed Al-Ibadah. Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah can also be called Tawheed Al-Khalq, or the Zat of Allah Azza wa Jal. Remember, the term has not been mentioned in the Quran, Ruboobeeyah. But has the evidences been mentioned in regards to that? Yes. So, why is it that the term Tawheed Ruboobiyah has not been mentioned in the Quran as a term? Why? Because the Sahaba, they understood the reality of Tawheed in its completeness. They didn't need anyone to come and say, by the way, let me give you a halakah on Tawheed. Did Rasulullah give his companions halakah on the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal? No. Ayahs came down in relation to the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he explained them. This is this verse, this is this verse, this is this hadith, and they get the understanding. Meaning they had a puritanical understanding of the term At-Tawheed. Yuwahidullah, meaning they had this complete, exclusive belief and worship of Allah without any deviation. So where did the term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah come from? The term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah came about after particular deviant sects, they started to appear. Like for example, it could be a new term a scholar he may introduce today, which was never mentioned in the past, but it's not necessarily an innovation, but it's got evidence in regards to that. So classifications of Tawheed, for example, Ruboobiyah, Uluhiyah, Al-Asma Sifat, the Hakamiyah of Allah, the Lordship, the worship, the names and the attributes, the ruling and the legislation, is not an innovation to say that term. Because I can say it is an innovation to say that term. Why? Where did Allah say the word Ruboobiyah in the Quran? But if there's the term which does not necessarily have an announcement, but the announcement is there within the Quran, it has a reality which exists. Do you understand now? So the name Ruboobiyah doesn't exist. But is Allah Azza wa Jal our Rabb? He is. Did Allah say He is our Rabb? Yes. It has an announcement. Does it have a reality in relation to that? Yes. Does it have something which exists in regards to that? Yes. Al-Imanu Billah. We believe in Allah. Allah, He exists. So what's the history behind the term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah? The reason why we need to lay this down is so later on you don't say, why do you use the term Tawheed Al-Hakamiyah? That's an innovation. So we need to remove any kind of mysterious spell someone will try and put over you.
Can you repeat that, the definition again of Ruboobiyah? You mentioned in the Quran, but
yeah. Oh yeah, Tawheed Ruboobiyah, we say it's in relation to the function of your heart, the belief of your heart in regards to who is Allah. We can put it that way. Yuwahidullah. Yeah? Your belief, Al-Imanu Billah. Your belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. Who is Allah? Where is the history behind why this term came about? Because we're going to mention this term. Whenever you give da'wah, you're going to be saying, brother, we need to believe in Allah. And then you're going to say, where did this term come from? I don't know. So what are you using this term for? Well, that's a good point. I mean, you're going to go home then. Then you're going to just say nothing then. Okay? We need to understand, the Sahaba, we said, they had a pure understanding of Islam. Yeah? They had a pure understanding of the Tawheed. However, what happened was, when the teachings of Islam, they spread from Mecca and Medina, and they started to go to Egypt, Persia, India, people, some of them, they still carry their previous beliefs. Like, for example, it could be today, someone who used to be a Christian, he become Muslim, and you ask him, who is Jesus? He's a son of Allah. We don't call him a kafir as a result of that, by the way, because he's got an excuse of ignorance because he's a new Muslim. So this person, you explain to him, brother, actually, maybe when the person who was giving you dawah on the stall before you took your shahada, maybe you didn't know, God doesn't have any sons, he doesn't have any daughters, and he doesn't have any father or anything like that. Okay, thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan. MashaAllah. He's Muslim. But 4 years later, when he says, yeah, I believe Jesus is the son of Allah, you're a kafir murtad. You're not a Muslim. You need to retake your shahada. Where did you get this funny idea from? So when the ideas, when the deen, the dawah spread to Egypt, Persia, India, Asian subcontinent, which has heavily got a lot of innovation nowadays, people, they still carry their own beliefs. Some of them, they start carrying philosophical beliefs, different ideas from different books. And these started to appear within various books and writings and started to spread everywhere. From those writings, and we're talking about in the 7th century, by the way, yeah? So we're talking about 350 year Hijri. Two major sects, they arose. They were known as the Qadariyah and the Jabariyah. The Qadariyah and the Jabariyah. Who are they? The Qadariyah, let's understand them first of all. Qadariyah, this arose in Iraq. In Iraq, by one convert from Christianity. His name was Sosan. Sosan. You can spell it however you like. Sosan. That was his. Yeah, Sosan. That was his name. Yeah, that was his. That used to be his Christian name. I don't know whether he changed it or not when he became a Muslim. And what he done was he denied the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. He denied the qadr of Allah, meaning the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal, in terms of what's going to happen until Yawm al-Qiyamah. So we have something called al-qadr wal-qada. They're both in relation to one another, but when we say a matter happens, we call that the qada. And when we talk about the knowledge of Allah in terms of what's going to happen until Yawm al-Qiyamah, that is called the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. So he denied the aspect of al-qadr. He adopted Islam, started spreading this false belief, and then he apostated and went and reverted back to Christianity. And obviously he denied this, and he denied any knowledge which Allah Azza wa Jal will have until Yawm al-Qiyamah. However, just before he reverted, he infected one of his students known as Mabad ibn Khalid al-Juhayni from Basra. Mabad ibn Khalid al-Juhayni. I'll repeat that one more time. Mabad ibn Khalid al-Juhayni. And he started spreading his teaching everywhere until the Umayyad Khalif Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he caught him and executed him in the 7th century. So we can't tolerate anything like this underneath the Islamic State. Now, why was this issue being, able to be tackled so quickly and so, robustly and easily? Is because some of the Sahaba, they were still alive at that time. Abdullah ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abi Awfa, they were still alive at that time. And in fact, they didn't need to make a fatwa, but they considered anybody who held this belief that Allah doesn't know what's going to happen until Yawm al-Qiyamah, then these people are kafir murtadeen. They're going to pass away. By the way, there's some fruit here if any brother wants some, inshallah. Yeah, there's some apple and banana here, inshallah. Okay, and then Mabad ibn Khalid, he had a student known as Ghaylan ibn Muslim from Damascus. He had a student known as Ghaylan ibn Muslim from Damascus. And he started to become infected by these ideas, and he's carried on spreading these false ideas, throughout the Islamic State. You got the name?
What was the two sects? Qadiani?
No, not Qadiani. Qadariyah and Jabariyah. Qadariyah and Jabariyah. Okay? So Ghaylan ibn Muslim, he's the next person now who's been infected by these ideas. You see how it started now. One person used to be a Christian, then he became a Muslim, started spreading these false ideas, spread to another person, Mabad ibn Khalid al-Juhayni, then it spread down to Ghaylan ibn Muslim from Damascus. So from Iraq, it went to Syria, this idea, and he carried on spreading this idea until he was captured by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Now, what happened here was very, very conniving of Ghaylan. Because what he done was, he said, I'm going to make tawbah publicly. And he made tawbah publicly, and then he waited until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he passed away, and then he carried on going from place to place and carried on spreading his ideas. So how are we going to tolerate with such a person now? He waits for the Khalif to pass away and carry on spreading his ideas. The next Khalif, known as Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, he caught him, put him on trial, and executed him. Hisham ibn Abdul Malik was the Khalif. He executed Ghaylan ibn Muslim. Then we have another sect, Jabariyah, which are very similar to the Qadariyah. And this was started by a person, or this appeared, these type of writings and ideas of the Jabariyah, by one individual known as Al-Jad ibn Dirham. Al-Jad ibn Dirham. He denied the qadr of Allah, like the Qadariyah, but he also denied the free will of mankind. Yeah, Al-Jad ibn Dirham. Al-Jad ibn Dirham. So he denied the qadr of Allah, and he also denied our free will. Remember, we have a free will whether we're going to do something or whether we're not going to do something. Meaning, if I commit a sin, that's what I'm accountable. Allah has given me free will, but He hasn't given me the choice. Allah didn't give me a choice, but He gave me free will. It's important that you understand the distinction between the two. Otherwise, you'll end up committing kufr. Otherwise, you'll start attributing your sin to Allah. You'll start saying, but Allah, He wanted me to commit this sin. Because you mix the two. You mix the qadr of Allah. Allah knows what's going to happen to me, so maybe Allah, He wrote it for me to happen. No. Allah knows what you're going to do, but He gave you the free will, but He didn't give you the choice. He only told you, وَهَدَيْنَهُ نَجْدَيْن. This is right, this is wrong. You got the free will to do it or not. What He done was He denied that man has free will, attributing sin to Allah. Allah made me do this sin. Allah caused this sin to happen. That's the Jabariyah, the core beliefs of the Jabariyah. More than that, he started to interpret the ayat of the Quran in relation to the attributes of Allah. So, for example, in Damascus, he denied Allah can't hear and He can't see. Astaghfirullah. Umayyad Khalif at that time, he caught him and he expelled him to Kufa. The Umayyad Khalif, he caught him and expelled him to Kufa. And the Umayyad governor then, he had him publicly executed. However, same problem. He went away, but the students didn't go away. Yeah? His main student was a man known as Jaham ibn Safwan. Jaham ibn Safwan, maybe you heard that name before. And he continued to spread his ideas until he was caught and executed by a governor known as Nasir ibn Sayyar. Nasir ibn Sayyar. So what you can understand is, okay, these are the two sects that arose, and obviously it was the ulama, they were able to deal with these matters very easily because of the authentic understanding of Tawheed at that particular time. Yeah, and some
What's his name? The student's name?
Jaham ibn Safwan. You don't need to remember too much the name Al-Jad ibn Dirham. The main person of the Jabariyah, which the ulama always speak about, is Jahm ibn Safwan. When you talk about Jahm ibn Safwan, they are the Jabariyah. These are, extreme form of kafir. This is extreme apostasy being committed. You're talking about denying the qadr of Allah, denying the free will of Allah, explaining the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. More than that, you're denying that Allah, He hears and He sees. Obviously, you got other sects, for example, which exist after that. For example, like the Ash'ariyah, they deny all of the attributes of Allah except 7. And obviously, we'll study about the different sects and their understanding of the names and attributes. So, the point that we want to make is, first of all, that sects arose, firqa, they arose. The Sahaba, they were able to deal with those people very robustly and quickly and promptly because the authentic understanding of Islam was there. However, classifications of Tawheed, knowledge in relation to your imanu billah had to be laid down by the fuqaha of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So such deviation does not exist, and such deviation does not repeat itself. So ulama had to lay down classifications. This was the cause for the term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah to come into play, and Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah to be mentioned and laid down by the ulama. Who were the people who laid down the classifications for Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah? Imam Tahawi, and he's got probably this is the earliest book of Aqidah that you can find. Imam Tahawi and Imam Ibn Bakr al-Akburi. Ibn Bakr al-Akburi. Ibn Bakr al-Akburi, he wrote a book called Al-Ibana. Al-Ibana and Aqidah Tahwiyah, which is, attributed to Imam Tahawi, is 350 year Hijri. These are the oldest books of Aqidah that you can find.
What's the name of
Huh? Yeah, Imam Tahawi and Ibn Bakr al-Akburi. Akburi, yeah. Ibn Bakr al-Akburi. Now, these two, they laid down the classifications for Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah. You need to know that. Later scholars, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah in the 7th century, he took a division of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah known as Tawheed Al-Asma wa Sifat. Because remember, Ruboobiyah is in relation to your knowledge of Allah, His names, His attributes and His functions. Zat of Allah. You can also call it Tawheed Al-Zat. If you don't want to use the term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, you can say Tawheed Al-Zat. But Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah is more accurate. This is what the ulama, they laid down. We stick to what the ulama, what they've laid down as a classification. We don't want to start using different terms. However, it's the same thing. You're not doing any bid'ah. There's nothing wrong, nothing harmful in laying down further classifications. So no one can say it's a bid'ah to use the term Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. The ulama, they used it. Ibn Taymiyyah in the 7th century, he took a division of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah known as Tawheed Al-Asma Sifat. He made that as the third classification of Tawheed. His student, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he made a fourth classification of Tawheed known as Tawheed al-Ittiba' or Tawheed al-Ta'a wal-Ittiba'. Then you have Tawheed al-Hakamiyah. Which scholar has mentioned Tawheed al-Hakamiyah? You have Imam Karufi, in his book Kitab al-Faruq. Imam Karufi, Kitab al-Faruq, he made down classification for Tawheed al-Hakamiyah, as well as Imam Jirjani. Imam Jirjani, both of them, they made classifications for Tawheed al-Hakamiyah. So you Imam Karufi, as well as Imam Jirjani. So you understand, who are the scholars now? Imam Tahawi, Ibn Bakr al-Akburi, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Imam Karufi, and Imam Jirjani. All of these made classifications for Tawheed. Now, when we talk about Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah or any classification of Tawheed, or any aspect of who is Allah, what is Allah, if there's an evidence in the Quran which explains the meaning of that new term which you want to bring about, but has a reality which exists, it's mubah. So no one can say Tawheed al-Hakamiyah is a bid'ah. Okay? We understand that now.
Repeat that sentence.
I can't even remember what I just said.
That's the one I was asking you before as well.
Okay.
If there's evidence from the Quran.
Yeah. If no one can say that basically Tawheed al-Hakamiyah is a bid'ah, and no one can say this classification is an innovation. Why? Because it could be a new term which someone has introduced. However, the meaning of that term exists within the Quran with the reality which exists, which Allah has disclosed to us. My memory is so bad, I can't remember what I said 2 seconds ago. I say it, then afterwards, I'm like, what was that? Okay. Well, that wasn't exactly what I said, but...
The meaning of the word
yeah.
isn't exactly in the Quran.
No, the meaning, the term is not in the Quran, but the meaning of the term is in the Quran. Why? Because the reality exists. Okay, that's good. Alhamdulillah, I learned something, innit? It's recorded, yeah. Alhamdulillah, I learned it live, Okay. If we got that, and if you don't need to ask me the names again.
Yeah, Imam Karufi and what?
Imam Karufi and Imam Jirjani. Better you get everything down as we go along, otherwise afterwards you're going to be like, what, the third one? No.
Tawheed Hakimiyah is not bid'ah.
Yeah, Tawheed al-Hakamiyah is not a bid'ah. because the term itself maybe is the term might not be mentioned in the Quran, but the meaning is in the Quran with the reality which exists, which Allah Azza wa Jal has disclosed to us and explained to us. No, I'm not going to repeat it again.
Just understand it right.
So long as you understand it, yeah. So how you explain it is fine, so long as you don't detach away from the meaning. Yeah.
I say, yes, Tawheed is not bid'ah because the term is not it does not exist in the Quran.
Yeah.
The meaning does exist in the Quran.
That's right. Same thing with Tawheed Ruboobiyah. That's all you want to understand. I don't want to make it complicated. I'm sorry if I did, yeah. But this might, complicated way of maybe saying things. But that's all it basically means, isn't it? Yeah, as long as you understand it. Maybe I'll go from different directions, but you eventually get to the same bus stop, isn't it? It's the same route, basically, we're trying to reach. Okay? So, if we're clear on that, then we can study the evidences for Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. What is Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah? It is to single out Allah Azza wa Jal alone in regards to your belief that He is the creator of all of the creation. It is to single out your belief that He is the only creator of all of the creation. You're going to have a lot of evidences, by the way, that you're going to have to write down now. So I hope your pens have got ink in them. Where's the evidence for this? This is the first point, by the way, yeah? This is chapter Az-Zumar, chapter 39, verse 62. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, He is the creator of all things. So He is the creator of the whole of creation. Chapter 39, verse 62. Secondly, He is the sustainer of all of the animals, the people, and everything else. So He's the creator, and secondly, He's the sustainer.
Why
Yeah.
is that?
Huh?
Why is that?
I'll give you the ayah now. It's chapter Al-Hud, chapter 11, verse 6. I just want you to write that part down first before I mention the verse. He's the sustainer of the animals and the people and everything else. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in chapter Al-Hud, chapter 11, verse number 6, there is no living creature on the earth, but its provision is due from Allah. Everything from the creation, it gets its provision from the mankind and from the animal kind. From the animal kingdom, like some animals which we just saw down the road, even they're getting their provision, bananas and apples, yeah, some mushrikeen, and also from the humankind, meaning from the Muslims as well. Obviously they're humans as well anyway, yeah, but they live like animals anyway, yeah. The kuffar are like animals. So Allah has not restricted His rizq. He's al-razaq, He is al-razik. He has not restricted that just for the Muslims. So He only provides for the Muslims. Neither has He restricted His rizq, His provision, His sustenance only for the humankind, but also for the animal kingdom as well. Okay? Chapter 11, verse 6. Third point, the third and the fourth and the fifth point, I'm going to mention them together, and I'll give you one evidence which will cover all of that. Okay? The third point is number 3, the evidence for Tawheed Ruboobiyah. He's the owner of the dominion. He's the owner of the dominion and the one who manages all of the affairs of the world. He's the owner of the whole, everything. He owns everything. And He manages the affairs of everything. Okay? Fourthly, is that He brings some from the creation close to Him and some which are distant to Him. Yeah? So He brings some close to Him and some He distances them from Him. Meaning what? Meaning Allah Azza wa Jalla, He gives hidayah to those who He wishes, and He leaves in misguidance that who He wishes. Number 5 is that He honors some people and He brings humiliation to some people, like the American troops inside Afghanistan and Iraq, and inshallah the Israelis inside Palestine, and inshallah all of the Americans living inside America who are at war with Allah and His Messenger. Different type of Tawheed halakha you have, innit? We send curse on America at this halakha, you see. Okay, you got that now? 3, 4, 5? Fourth. 5 is He brings some into humiliation and some He gives honor. Yeah? He honors some people and humiliates some people.
Dishonor.
Huh?
Dishonor.
Yeah, dishonor. Yeah. He honors and dishonors some people. Where's the evidence for this? Surah Ali Imran, chapter 3, verse 26 to 27. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, say, O Allah, possessor of the kingdom, you give the kingdom to whom you will, and you take the kingdom from whom you will, and you endue with honor whom you will, and you humiliate whom you will. In your hand is the good. Verily you are able to do all things. You take the night to enter into the day, and you make the day to enter into the night. You bring the living out of the dead, and you bring the dead out of the living, and you give the wealth and sustenance to whom you will without limit. This ayah on its own, we can say, it proves the whole of Tawheed Ruboobiyah. It proves the whole of Tawheed Ruboobiyah in relation to who is Allah, what is His attribute, what is He able to do, that He's the creator, the sustainer, the maintainer, the one who brings about something. He can bring about something from nothing if He wants. He can bring the living out of the dead, like on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He can bring about the dead, meaning like what you see inside your own, not within your body, but like the sperm, for example. It can bring about creation, humankind. He can bring rizq to whom He wants. He can bring hidayah to whoever He wants. He can make somebody a king in the sense that he has a lot of jewels and he has a nice chair like I've got, to whoever He wants. And He can take this chair from whoever He wants as well. He can give us a light, and that light can go off whenever it wants, and it's off now because the battery ran out. Yeah? That's in the hands of Allah. Nobody has control over that. You might have a switch that you think you can control, but if Allah wants, He can take that out. So we need to understand this. Because people don't study this is why the people, they fall off the deen. So people, they start practicing Islam, and then afterwards they lose a little bit of money. Why did Allah have to take this away from me? Oh, you're questioning Allah, and you start to then put doubt in your own belief in Allah. You start to have defection in your belief in Allah, and you distance yourself away from Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's important for us to understand this. More evidences. Chapter Luqman, chapter 31, verse 11. Allah Azza wa Jal said, this is the creation of Allah, so show me that which those whom you worship besides Him have created. It's a proof which we can give to the kuffar and say, this is the creation of Allah. Allah saying, this is the creation of Allah. So those people who you worship now, show me what they have created themselves. I'm a creation, you're a creation. Allah asking us, show us from amongst mankind. Those people who you worship, so you bow down to a man, you worship a man, tell him to make someone like you. You can't. Chapter 31, verse 11. More evidences in relation to those 5 points that we just mentioned. This is obviously, evidence is still in relation to those 5 points. Chapter Al-Mulk, Surah Al-Mulk, chapter 67, verse 21. Who is He that can provide for you if He should withhold His provision? Who can provide for you if Allah He chooses to withhold His provision? Is there anyone that can provide for you? No one. Well, I don't say my rizq, it comes from David Cameron. It comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. If Allah doesn't want my rizq to reach me, it won't. It could be, for example, David Cameron, he gives me £20 in my pocket, and I've got a hole inside my pocket. I drop it, and Yusuf, he finds it, mashallah, he become billionaire, and he'll have a waffle with ice cream afterwards. Yeah, maybe. That was 67, verse 21. Also, the most famous one is chapter of Al-Fatiha. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, all praise and thanks be to Allah, who is the Rabb al-Alameen, the Rabb of the Alameen, the Lord of the Alameen. The Alameen meaning all of the creation, everything. He's the Lord of the sun, He's the Lord of the moon, He's the Lord of all of the creation, everything that exists. Also, chapter 7, verse 54, Al-Araf. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, indeed your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, then He rose over, meaning He made istiwa, in Arabic we say istiwa, over the throne, meaning, and He rose over the throne in a way which befits His majesty. We don't ask how. And He brings the night as a cover over the day, seeking it rapidly, and the sun and the moon and the stars, and they're subjected to His command. Surely His is the creation and the commandment. Blessed be Allah, the Lord of the Alameen. Everything we say is He's controlling and managing, and everything is to the subject of the will of Allah. How Allah He wants. If Allah doesn't want the sun to rise, it won't rise. If Allah wants Hurricane Salahuddin Ayyubi to go to America, for example, then the hurricane, it will go there. Everything is subject to the management of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He's managing all of the creation. The sun, the moon, the stars, even the Jannah, what's contained within the Jannah, Allah is in control and managing the Jahannam, and what's controlled within it, Allah is controlling the events and everything which is going to happen on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah is in control in which land we will die, the qadr of Allah. He knows everything. And He's in control of everything. Another evidence is chapter 14, verse 10. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, their messengers said, the messengers meaning the Anbiya, they said, what? Can there be any doubt about Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth? Can there then be any shak about the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who made all of this? And then Allah Azza wa Jalla said in chapter 52, verse 35 to 36, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, were they created by nothing? Were they created by nothing, or were they themselves the creators? Were they themselves the creators, or did they create the heavens and the earth? No. In fact, these people, they don't have firm belief. Meaning, an argument against the atheist, the one who says, no, there's nothing called the God, there's nothing called the creator, there's nothing called the one who made man, life and universe. Okay, so you must be God then. Na'udhu billah. No, you can't be the creator then. You can't be the controller and the manager. Meaning, everything, all of the ayat, there's many by the way. This is just a few verses that we mentioned. There's more evidences coming. We're going to explain now the divisions of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. But all of the evidences only point towards one matter. To say, your heart must submit to the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. Your heart must accept that there is a Rabb. He is our only Rabb, and He's the only one then worthy of worship. Belief in Allah first, then worship Allah. Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, then Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah. But how to worship Allah can't come without to understand who is Allah, what's His names, His attributes and His functions. This we can call the divisions of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. And there are many, but I just want to mention 4. And like I said, we already mentioned 3 times now already. It's not an innovation. Why? Because even now the division, the term itself may be mentioned in the Quran, may not be mentioned in the Quran. However, there are evidences in regards to that. So let me mention those 4. Tawheed al-Halq. Tawheed al-Halq. What does that mean? We say, what is Tawheed in the first place? Brother Yusuf can tell me. When we study Tawheed, what do we say Tawheed is? A comprehensive definition I want. Don't say the oneness of God. Al-Ifradullahi bil-Ibadah, exclusive worship of Allah. So now in regards to Tawheed al-Halq, what do we say? Worship of Allah? No. We say the exclusive ability of Allah Azza wa Jal to create from nothing. The exclusive, the ifrad again, the exclusive ability of Allah to create from nothing. Tawheed al-Halq. Then we can also say, by the way, these divisions which I'm mentioning, they may be mentioned within particular books of the Salaf or the ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They may not necessarily be mentioned. However, they may be explained as part of a different chapter. For example, if you read Usul al-Thalatha by Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and I encourage you to buy this book, read it, study it, try to memorize it. At a later point, we'll study it in a little bit more detail. It's not a matter if we just study this topic once, Tawheed, and we leave it at that. It's a lifetime study. Some people have this idea, we're just going to study something once and twice and we just leave it there and have a Kit Kat. No. In Tawheed in Usul al-Thalatha, the explanation of this term has been mentioned. The second one is Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf. Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf. Tadbir. Tadbir wal-Tasarruf. The absolute power of Allah Azza wa Jal to control and manage. Yeah? To control and manage. So what does He say? He controls and manages the sun, the moon, the stars, the alternating of the night, the alternating of the day. He controls and manages, for example, even everything basically. Yeah? Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf. The absolute power of controlling and managing. Then we have something called Tawheed al-Qadr. Tawheed al-Qadr. This is known also, let's use another term for it. Tawheed al-Hakamiyya Taqwaniyya. Tawheed al-Hakamiyya Taqwaniyya, which is Allah Azza wa Jal, He controls all fate and destiny. All fate and destiny. Hakamiyya Taqwaniyya. So He controls all of the fate and the destiny. Then the fourth one is known as Tawheed al-Zat. Tawheed al-Zat, which is known as the Asma Sifat. Tawheed al-Zat is also known as Tawheed al-Zat, but it's in relation to the names and attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal and His functions. Everything to do with Himself. So does Allah have a hand? Does Allah have speech? Does Allah Azza wa Jal sit? Does Allah Azza wa Jal have a foot? All of these things we need to study. Tawheed al-Zat. What's the Zat of Allah? How many names and attributes does Allah Azza wa Jal have? How do we understand those names and those attributes? Who is the one who can explain those names and those attributes? Can I make my own interpretation of them? Or is the one who mentioned those names Himself, Allah Azza wa Jal Himself? Can He describe to us? Whose understanding do we adopt? So let's go through them again. Tawheed al-Halq, Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf, Tawheed al-Qadr, also known as Tawheed al-Hakamiyya Taqwaniyya, Tawheed al-Zat, also known as Tawheed al-Asma Sifat. If you want me to repeat any of that, let me know. Tawheed al-Qadr, Tawheed al... Huh? That means He controls all fate and destiny. Also known as Tawheed al-Hakamiyya Taqwaniyya.
Control all fate and destiny.
Fate and destiny. So He knows, He controls, for example, which land you're going to be born in, where you're going to die, how much money you're going to earn, how much money you're going to lose. Everything. Yeah? Now, when I believe in those matters, and it could be, there's more as well, in fact, I could do one of four, and I need to be aware of four matters which could occur in regards to how I believe in those divisions of Tawheed. These are divisions of Tawheed I've just mentioned to you. Do you understand the difference between a division and a classification? We say a division is detailed matters of a classification. A classification is either in relation to his lordship, worship, names and attributes, or His ruling and His legislation. Very easy to understand. It's not that complicated. Okay? I could commit one of four. Number one is I could commit something called Shirk as-Sarf. Shirk as-Sarf, meaning I direct one of His divisions of Tawheed to somebody else. Tawheed as-Sarf. Yeah. Shirk as-Sarf. Yeah, direct it to somebody else. So I could direct His exclusive ability to create to somebody else. I could just direct His exclusive ability to control and manage to someone else. I could just direct His exclusive ability to control all fate and destiny, or His names and attributes, or His Zat to somebody else. If I do that, that is shirk, association of partners with Allah, and I become a mushrik. I go outside the fold of Islam. Then there's something called Shirk al-Ataf. Shirk al-Ataf, which is to combine with Allah. So I say, Allah is the creator, but not the exclusive creator. Barack Obama, he's also the creator as well. Shirk as-Sarf wal-Ataf. Sarf wal-Ataf, to direct to somebody else or to combine with Allah. Both is shirk. Both is association, polytheism. Shirk as-Sarf wal-Ataf. To direct, as-Sarf is to direct to somebody else. Al-Ataf is to combine with Allah. Shirk Akbar. Yeah? We're not talking about the topic shirk in detail. We just want to explain, this is two matters which you don't want to do. The third matter is what you don't want to do is al-Nafi. You don't want to deny any of the divisions of Tawheed. That is kufr. So first two are shirk. Third one is kufr. Shirk as-Sarf wal-Ataf, al-Kufr, you don't want to do. Then the fourth matter is known as al-Ithbat. Al-Ithbat is to affirm who is Allah, what is Allah. However, we need to be careful with shirk, the Ithbat in Allah Azza wa Jal, in His names, attributes and His functions, because we will only affirm what Allah He affirmed Himself. If you affirm something which Allah has not affirmed for Himself, you end up guilty of committing something, kufr. Yeah? So for example, na'udhu billah, if someone says, Allah He's a man and He comes down on the earth and He rests and he lives and He dies, no. We say He's the all-living and He never dies. So that's the ithbat. So the correct way is to affirm whatever Allah Azza wa Jal He's affirmed for Himself. You don't add anything to it. You don't subtract anything to it. You don't combine with it, and you don't direct it to anything other than that. So we say, in regards to our belief in Allah. We believe in Allah the way Allah has told us. Khalas. Simple as that. We believe in Allah how Allah has told us to believe in Him. We don't add, we don't subtract, and we don't affirm except that which Allah Azza wa Jal, He's affirmed for Himself. We have imanu billah, belief in Allah, and we make ithbat in the imanu billah, that which Allah Azza wa Jal has described Himself. And the only one who's best to know about Himself is Allah. Who better to explain who is Allah than Allah Himself? We don't need to think, maybe it could mean this. We don't need to make similarity. We don't need to make explanation or use our ration. Our deen is not based upon ration. Yes.
The third one. Al-Nafi, is it?
Al-Nafi, negation. So you don't negate any of the divisions of Tawheed. You don't negate and you say Allah is not the creator. Allah is not the one who controls and manages. Yeah? So on and so forth. Okay. What then is the linguistic meaning then of the term Rabb? When we say Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, before we've already understand some evidences in relation to Ruboobeeyah. The linguistic and the Sharia meaning, they are the same. Maybe a lot of times you don't really hear that too often. We will say linguistic meaning of this term, Sharia definition of this term. Rabb, what does Rabb mean? Rabb, it comes from the term Rabba Ya Rabbu. Rabba Ya Rabbu, which means to bring up something from stages. Rabba Ya Rabbu. A Rabb comes from the term Rabba Ya Rabbu, or the one who is responsible, we can say, a Rabb means, for setting the creation in its correct affairs. Setting the creation in its correct affairs. Putting it in its right place. Yeah? So for example, Allah hasn't made man, for example, to be like a fish and just be living underneath the water. Yeah? And vice versa as well. The fish has not been made to live on the land, except in Whitechapel, of course, because you sell it there, innit? Okay. Other linguistic examples for Rabb is Rabbudar. Rabbudar or Rabbudar, the Lord of the house. The Lord of the house, you can say. Also, you can say Rabbul Mazil, the owner of the house. So the Lord of the house, the owner of the house, and third one you can say is the Lord of the camel. We can say the Rabb, Arab, it has the following three meanings comprehensively, and I'll give you evidences for all three, and then we'll finish it there. And then next week we'll go through the proofs for Tawheed al-Khalq, yeah, and all the other divisions. So we just want to understand an elementary understanding of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. First one we can say is the owner of something. So I'm giving you the evidences now for the term Rabb, okay? The owner of something. And this is mentioned in hadith number 618, narrated by Zayd bin Khalid. Zayd bin Khalid. This is hadith number, yeah, it is in Bukhari, yeah. Zayd bin Khalid. Yeah. A man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was asking about a lost thing. He was talking about a lost thing. And Rasulullah said, you don't need to write the hadith down. Go home and just listen to the whole hadith and then just understand the meaning of it. Yeah, so long as you understand the meaning of it. Reference 618. Bukhari, Zayd bin Khalid. He reported Rasulullah saying, the man came to Rasulullah asking about a lost matter. Rasulullah said, remember the description of his container and the string it is tied with, and make the public announcement about it for 1 year. Yeah? And if the owner shows up, give it to him. Otherwise, do whatever you like with it. So he's asking about something which was lost. And then he asked, what about a lost sheep? What if there's a lost sheep? What do I do about a lost sheep? Rasulullah said, it is for you, for your brother, meaning his owner, or for the wolf. It's for one of you three. And then he asked again, he said, but then what about a lost camel? And he said, the Prophet said, it's none of your concern. It has its water container, meaning like a reservoir from where it's going to drink from, and it's got its own 2 feet. And it will reach the water and drink and eat from it and from the trees until his owner, meaning his Rabb, will find it. His Rabb, meaning his owner, will find it. The owner of something. So we say a Rabb comprehensively can mean, number one, the owner of something. So we give the example of the man with the camel. The Rasulullah informed him about the camel, and he used the term Rabb in relation to that.
Linguistic meaning.
Linguistic and Sharia meaning, they're both the same. The owner of something, yeah? Or the one who brings up something from stages, yeah? Or the one who puts the creation in its correct affairs. These are different meanings, but it all basically means the same thing, yeah? A Rabb. So we say the owner of something. Secondly, we say the leader who is obeyed. And the evidence for this is in chapter Yusuf, verse 41, 42, and 52. And in this one, Yusuf alayhi salam, remember he had the ability to explain dreams, dream interpretation. And one slave, he asked Yusuf alayhi salam for dream interpretation. And he said, what is it the dream that you saw? What's the dream that you saw? He said, I saw, one man, he said, I saw a bird eating from my head. And another one, he said, I was making wine. And he said, as for you, you shall feed your Rabb, meaning your leader. Linguistically, he was talking about your leader, wine. That was the meaning of the dream. So the leader who is obeyed. So the word Rabb has been mentioned as the owner of something, or the leader who is obeyed.
What ayah is that?
Yusuf 41, 42, and 52. Okay. And the third one, is the last one, is the one who is in charge of someone's affairs or nourishes and gives it something like the farmer. And two evidences for that is Surah Fatiha, verse 1 and 2. Surah Al-Fatiha, verse 1 and 2, the Lord of the Alameen. And chapter Ashura, chapter 26, verse 26. Your Lord and the Lord of your ancient fathers. Yeah, so the one who's in charge of the affairs. So now you can see now, when we explain the divisions of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, and like I said, you don't need to memorize the terms, by the way, yeah, because not necessarily they're going to be mentioned in any book of the Salaf, but so long as you understand the meaning, he's the controller, he's the manager, he's the one who gives life, he's the one who takes life, he's the one who has names, attributes, functions, and they're exclusively for him. You can see all of the evidences in the Quran indicate towards that in regards to our belief in Allah, in regards to understanding He's the owner, He's the controller, He's the manager, He's the leader of everything, He's the one who owns everything. That is all in regards to that. Okay? If you've got any questions or anything that you missed, just ask me now, and inshallah then we finish it there, inshallah. The last one? What do you want? Evidence? Okay, chapter 26, verse 26. Your Lord and the Lord of your ancient fathers. Chapter Ashura, and also Fatiha, verse 1 to 2. So, alhamdulillah, so we studied quite comprehensively. We understand now what is Tawheed Ruboobiyah, and we've also understood, the evidences in regards to the term Rabb and a linguistic meaning and the divisions of Tawheed Ruboobiyah. What are we going to study next week? We're going to study Tawheed al-Halq and the evidences for that, meaning his absolute right of being the creator. We're also going to give 7 evidences for Tawheed al-Halq and how to prove that Allah Azza wa Jal, He then exists. Then we'll also go on to other matters like Tawheed al-Qadr, Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf, and then after that we will go to the topic of Tawheed al-Asma Sifat, and for that we'll be referring to the book Aqidah al-Wasatiyah. We're not going to go into too much detail of it, or maybe go into some as much detail as we need to. The point of the halaqah is so you understand it, okay? Not so that you just go away with loads and thousands of notes and afterwards you can't remember what the topic was called.
What was the full classification Ibn Qayyim
Huh? Tawheed al-Ta'a wal-Ittiba.
What?
Ittiba. Tawheed al-Ta'a or Tawheed al-Ittiba. You can say just Tawheed al-Ittiba.
So you can say, for example, the word, the classification of Tawheed al-Hakamiyah.
Yeah.
So you can say the real existence of it exists.
Yeah. And evidence exists of that, but the name may not necessarily be mentioned within the Quran. At the end of the day, you can say, what's the hukum? Ask the question like this: what's the hukum for using the term Tawheed al-Hakamiyah? It's mubah. Unless there's evidence to indicate otherwise. It's mubah, it's permissible, because there's evidences all there. Same thing, someone will say, where's your evidence for using the term Tawheed al-Tadbir wal-Tasarruf? I can give you all of the evidences. But it never mentioned that name. the evidence doesn't need to mention the name, because the name might be something new, but the meaning, it exists for a reality which Allah Azza wa Jal, He's informed us about.
So, for example, the guy who's telling me you can't say Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah because we understand it. He said, I understand it. He goes, I know it exists,
Yeah.
but it's within the uluhiyah.
Fine. Then you say, then why do you use the term Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah? We understand it. Where did Allah mention the name? Same thing. You get it now? That's the whole point that you're trying to prove. That don't say Tawheed al-Hakamiyah as a bid'ah, but then say we have a classification of Tawheed Ruboobiyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyah. Why did they make? What is the cause for the classification to be made? It's not just understanding that the meaning is there within the Quran. It's first of all is the need for the classification of Tawheed al-Hakamiyah to be made. Why did we go through the history of the Qadariyah and the Jabariyah to say and explain? Look, there was a reality which existed. These people, they started making deviation. Ulama, they need to make classification of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah, Uluhiyah. Therefore, ulama later on can make as many classifications as they want. As many classifications as they want. Someone can make a classification for tomorrow and say whatever the term would be in Arabic. Allah is the one who sees all and hears all. Allah is the one who's the provider. Why are you saying that for when that's already part of Tawheed Ruboobiyah? Say that to Ibn Taymiyyah then. Ibn Taymiyyah, he said Tawheed al-Asma Sifat. Tawheed al-Asma Sifat, we said, was the fourth part or division of Tawheed Ruboobiyah in relation to Tawheed al-Zat. Tawheed al-Zat is also the Asma Sifat. They can't be separated. We're not making separation. If someone makes separation, that is a bid'ah. Yes. If someone says there's a separate topic and it's got nothing to do with that, they're all intertwined together. They all have talazum together. They can't be separated. But for the purposes of studying, we make classifications in order to understand. The ulama, simple reason is, simple matter you can say is, the cause for Tawheed Ruboobiyah and Tawheed Al-Uluhiyah, Asma Sifat Hakamiyah to be classified is to broaden and make it easier for people to understand and comprehend the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay?
So you know Imam Jirjani?
Yeah. Yeah.
What era are they from?
That I can't remember.
Are they present scholars?
No, they're from the past. Imam Jadijani, yeah, from the past. Yeah. But what I mean is, listen, you don't need to say, for example, look, when you're discussing with someone, the classifications of Tawheed Ruboobiyah, the two scholars that we mentioned for the term Ruboobiyah now, for example, yeah, Imam Tahawi, yeah, for example, do all of the scholars, for example, even the present day scholars, so for example, Sheikh Ibn Baz, Uthaymeen, Albani, Fawzan, whoever they are, any scholar today, whatever type of Salafi scholar they are, do they always start their books by saying Tawheed Ruboobiyah? By the way, it was mentioned by this scholar? Hardly any. They'll just go straight to the Quran. Because they understand, they know very well, they're not stupid, the scholars, they understand very well that the classifications of Tawheed are first of all, need to understand, is there a cause to make that classification? Yes. And do we have evidence for that classification? Yes. If the evidence doesn't exist, then the classification is a bid'ah. If someone says, Tawheed al-Hakamiyah is a bid'ah, are you saying the hukum of Allah Azza wa Jalla is a bid'ah? No, I'm not saying that. What's the problem then? You don't want to use the term Tawheed al-Hakamiyah. Why? Because you blindly follow some scholar who doesn't mention a particular term. Just because he doesn't mention a particular term and he never made the announcement of it, doesn't matter. Why? Allah made the announcement for that term. He mentioned the meaning of that term. The reality exists. Why are you saying you have isbat on Allah? You affirm that which Allah He affirms for Himself, and then when we tell you, this is what Allah He affirms for Himself, yeah, I believe in that, but I don't want to mention the term. Why? Because you got a problem with the meaning of that term and the reality and your relation and the hukum that is carried with that term. With that term. Innal hukmu illa lillah, the right of legislation is for none but Allah. Are you going to believe in that and act upon that? Oh no. Because we have to rebel against the ruler, rise up against the hukam. We're going to have to establish the law of Allah. What are we going to do? We're going to be completely stuck then, isn't it? So those people who say Tawheed al-Hakamiyah is a bid'ah, ask them first of all, is the hukum for Allah's right now being implemented anywhere in the Muslim world? They say kufr duna kufr in the first place, which we already discussed in our previous sessions. So if someone says now, for example, I believe in the Hakamiyah of Allah, but I don't believe that there's a need for the classification of Tawheed al-Hakamiyah to be made, but he makes al-kufr bit-tahut properly, you can say no problem. But when some idiot comes along and says Hakamiyah is a bid'ah, and the rulers are Muslim, no wonder. I don't expect anything else from you. Like the man who says to you, for example, that I don't believe in Allah. Why? Because I believe God is Allah. He's the Trinity. I don't blame you for saying that. Of course you're going to say that, innit? You're not going to hear someone saying that I believe in Jesus and I believe God has 3 partners, but I pray to Allah. No, he ain't going to do that. You're not going to find anybody like that. So it's not a surprise. When you understand the detailed matters of someone's aqidah and manhaj, you won't be surprised when they start to say aqidah, the term Tawheed Al-Hakimiyyah is a bid'ah. Okay, we'll finish it there anyway, inshallah. And then we'll continue next week. We'll go to the proofs for Allah being the creator and all the other parts of Tawheed Ar-Ruboobiyah. If there's anything good I said, it's all from Allah. Any mistakes are all but my own. Wa sallallahu sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We have a 3-4 minute break, yeah? Inshallah. Okay.